We're live. Zach, first in. How are you, man? Welcome. Quinton, I'm almost certain now you don't sleep, dude. That's hilarious. Welcome, man. How you going? We've got Dan from NJ, Rev, Kin, Darren. Easier to say that than the other name there. Paul, how are you? So I was going to name this actual live stream Gear Circles and why we go around them. Because, as Quinton just pointed out, what pickups are these? So this is part of the problem. I think there's a few reasons we go around in gear circles, but I might do a full video on that coming up pretty soon. But I thought last night I did a gig and I brought the Tele out. It's the first time it's seen some action in a while because I had to get the nut fixed on it. And I had my PRS out for the first set and it was great. Great sustain. I could throw anything at it and it worked great. And then I pulled out the Telecaster, and it was Buzz City, and I didn't get the sustain I was looking for. It felt like, audibly, the guitars were just... I almost felt like it was unplayable after playing the PRS, so I thought, you know what, today, I'm going to put back the Bardens. I kept them. Everyone's saying, why don't you try Zex coils in your Tele? The main reason is I already have a set of these, so... Alright, lots of folks here already. Lando, how are you, man? Alright, it's about us time lefties have a channel. That's from Odomis. Is that how you... Odomis? Terrible at pronouncing some of these names. We've got Victor from El Paso, Texas. Cool. Ron from California. D. Murphy from Dublin. Is that Dan, maybe? We've got a chain of shops here called Dan Murphy. That's why I thought of that. Ed, how are you, man? It's 1 a.m. in Cleveland. So it's 3:13 p.m. here. I don't normally stream at this time of the day, but I just put these pickups back in and I thought, you know what? I thought I'd give them a quick run on the channel. Now I'm plugged into the Kemper and it's profiled my Studio Pro 112, the Peavey solid state amp. So that's the drive channel. And with a little bit of delay. Delay's always fun. Alright, we've got Kurt. Great Vanzini. Welcome. I like the Bardens. Yeah, look, I put up a poll on the YouTube channel saying, what do you think about me putting them back in? There are three options. One was, yes, I like the Joe Bardens. No, I like single coils. And the third one was, no, I like... put a set of Seymour Duncans in, or whatever I put in there, EMGs, active EMG pickups, because I like metal, and that got more votes than most of them, so that was pretty funny. But I think it just comes down to practicality. I've been around this circle a few times. I love single coil tones. I don't find them. It's just that usability thing where I play, even at home. If I was to do this stream with my guitar on, which it's on now, I would be unable to leave the guitar on. It'd just be like, meh. So it's a functional thing for me as well. All right, we've got Zach from Houston, Texas. Shred, Before Dead. I like that name. I've seen that before. 1013 in Western Canada. Cool. Great Vanzini. Holy smokes, get to do a live one. Welcome. I think I said hi before. Best treble booster to use with a Strat and a Vox AC30. I don't really use treble boosters a whole lot, man. You could probably just get like an EQ pedal and use something like that if that's all you're after. That would be a good way of doing it. And then you can kind of sort of customize the frequencies. Find some treble boosters a little bit limiting on what they do. I've only tried maybe 2 or 3 since I've been doing YouTube anyway. So for me personally, I think you can't go wrong with a tube screamer into a Vox. I think that's one of the best combinations ever. Did you do a video of yourself reinstalling the pickups? I didn't do that today. I was actually really husky up until before. I was singing all night as well. And yeah, I was just on a mission to get it done. But what I've done this time, I was talking to Rick, Dr. Rick, who's on the channel, about these pickups. And he was saying we might have had them too high before as well. So I've kind of dropped the height. They're much lower than where they were before. And to my ear now, it sounds maybe a little more jangly. So we'll see how it goes. I'm keeping the MJS ones. They're somewhere in here. Oh no, they're out there still where I did the transfer. But I didn't actually film the process. Yeah, I just thought I'd get stuck into it and make it happen. So I just love the fact, like, see, for me personally, I love neck pickup on a Tele. I really like soloing on bridge pickup when I'm sort of like out of ideas. But I find a neck pickup on the Barden just that little bit more. Surprisingly, it's got more tops. So yeah, it's pretty cool. We had Ben here too. I didn't say hi to Ben. How are you, Ben? We got Moyle from Yumba. Cool. I don't know where that is. I should probably know. I see your name pop up a lot. So, all right. Thanks for getting me into the red stripe Peavey. Now I have a Bandit and I'm not sure what that says. Transformer, both 12-inch. Yeah, I'm not too sure, but if you like the Peavey Bandit, that's awesome. Good stuff. I'm not sure what you mean by transformer. Unless you mean like a power transformer or some sort of, what do they call it? Step-down transformers, is that what you're saying? You can get them locally with 240 volts. I mean, yeah, actually there's an 80s blue stripe Peavey Bandit on Gumtree at the moment for $100. So I was thinking, might be kind of cool. Where are you going to put the MJSs? Well, that's the thing. I've been toying with the idea of maybe picking up a cheaper Tele. Something like a classic, well, it's not cheap, but, you know, like a classic vibe-ish guitar again. I really miss having that. And I'm one of those guys, I never read instructions. When I got the Kemper, I don't read the instructions. They go in the box. And I got to take this back soon. So I got one more video I need to knock out for this. And then I'll take it back. But yeah, I just don't read instructions at all, and I never bothered really going to the Joe Barden website other than to get the diagram, and that's what I did today. And then I just started reading, and I was like, you know, height adjustment drastically affects... I already knew these things, right? But the way in which these pickups work, they're a little unconventional, so supposedly, like, the slightest little thing will change a lot. So I'm going to toy with the idea of keeping them down further, which might mean I have to turn my amp up a little more. But, you know, I reckon it's probably sounding a little brighter. Sounds like All Right Now tone. Cool. The Blues Bunker, welcome. We got Rich Honda from Mississippi. That's awesome. I'm going to just enlarge the chat here. Just bear with me one sec, because I've only can see about 5 at a time. Probably missed a whole lot of stuff. All right, please play Waltzing Matilda. I'll leave that to Rick. He's the guy with the photographic memory for melodies. I can't play that. I have a classic Vibe 50s and been considering putting Tex-Mex pickups in it, but that would kind of ruin the 50s sound, I suppose. Yeah, it'll just make it different. Like, Tex-Mex pickups are kind of like the underrated pickup. Some people find them a little too bright. I've never owned them. I find Fat 50s a little too bright. So, I don't know. If I was to... I almost toyed with the idea of trying Tex-Mex pickups, because they're actually really cheap here, even in Australia, which is highly unusual. Someone just said play some Hendrix, but you got to watch the LLC. I actually got a copyright infringement from them quite some time ago, so I stay well away from playing a lot of Hendrix stuff. They're a bunch of pricks, a lot like people who post Mayer videos. They'll know exactly what I'm talking about. All right. Oh, Peavey Transformer amp. So that's what we're talking about. I haven't actually tried one of those before. Cool stuff. Got a Tele with a rosewood fretboard and put MJSs in. Awesome stuff. Cool. Like I said, great pickups. I just can't handle the buzz over, and that's not inherent of MJS pickups. It's just single coil pickups. That's the main reason I went to these before, was just to get rid of that buzz. Like I said, my guitar is on, and it's dead quiet. And in this room, that doesn't happen. That's why you don't see me play a lot on neck or bridge pickup with a Strat or Tele. In my videos, in the intros, I'm always on both pickups because it kind of cancels that buzz. Otherwise, it ruins it, and I don't have to gate it all the time and all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty much why I'm back to these, and it's just a functionality thing. I love the sound of those other pickups, but you know the great thing about the Bardens is this. Let's go over to the DSL. I'll crank up the gain. They just really handle the heavier sort of tones. So yeah, the Attitude guitar is back in full force. Yeah, the gig last night was killing me. I had my like I said, for those who have just joined, had the PRS out, was loving it, had great sustain, great tone, no buzz, changed to the Tele, and it literally gave me the blues, man. I struggled so bad. It sounded magnificent on both pickups without the buzz, playing chords, but as soon as I went to either, I was like, oh, you know what? That's the beginning of the end. I said to one of my good friends, Neil, after the gig, I said, man, I think I'm going to flip this guitar on eBay. He goes, no, don't do that. Just put the other pickups back in. I was like, oh, yeah, lucky I've still got those. So I wasn't going to sell a guitar, by the way. It's just one of those things. I was really like, I went back to the PRS, and it was great. It was really great. And so I was like, yep. As unconventional as a pickup as some people think these are. If Danny Gatton can use them, I can use them. Gotta love Garry Moore. Still got the blues. Yeah, absolutely. Garry Moore's a monster player. I think a lot of people don't realize, he was such a better guitar player than most of the household blues names out there as well. He overplayed a lot. Like, he just ripped it a lot of the time. He didn't really... People will say he had the subtle finesse and all that kind of stuff. I think he was more of a balls to the wall kind of blues player, even more so than some of the guys that everyone sort of aspires to want to play like. Like Garry Moore was on a whole different level with Attitude. He was really something else. There's a really great clip of him and Albert Collins playing, and they launch into a slow blues after Garry Moore's just shredding, and Albert Collins sort of goes like that, and everyone in the crowd just goes, yeah. And Garry just kind of, you can find it on YouTube. Garry just sort of looks at him and goes, like laughs, because it's 4 notes or something, It's great. Have I ever seen a Lefty Flying V? I have. I've owned one. I had one of the 2007 Flying Vs, which were kind of like the studio model back then. I don't know the exact term for them. I don't know if they were called studios back then or not, or that's a more current thing. But basically, it was a good guitar. Like, tone-wise, it was fantastic. The only problem is you can't sit and play it unless you like playing your guitar with it between your legs. Kind of hard to see. But, yeah, and because I'm not a tall guy, it looked really weird. It looked like it sort of came out to about here. So... visually, actually, I've got some photos. I should dig that up. I think I've got one clip on video playing that guitar, and it sounded unreal. Like, I'm going to actually work on a few new ideas for videos coming up, and do like a bit of a history back through time and see if my tones actually changed, or whether it's pretty much the same after buying a lot of stuff. But yeah, Flying V's, man, love it. I'm a huge Albert King fan. you know, all of that stuff. You know, all of that sort of stuff was... Always liked Albert's stuff. He's the man. Let's go back to another patch. Sort of digging this Peavey Dirt. This is the Studio Pro. Play some funk. I'll just improv something. Jeremy says, it's funny that you talked about From the Cradle as being an inspiration for you because we're about the same age. I had the same experience when it came out. I was 16. It was a revelation. Yeah, I didn't hear it until I think about 5 years after it was out. And I was, well, maybe not quite that many years, but yeah, that was the turning point for me. Like, I was like, I want to learn how to play that. It's funny because I listened to that in the car recently. Brian and I carpooled up to a jam night. I put it on. We're both like, how great is this? Like, it's so good. Because Brian, my other friend, he's like a bit more of a fusion sort of blues guy. He plays a lot of the outside sort of stuff. And it sounds great. But when he heard that, he's like, oh yeah, I like forgot about minor pentatonic, you know, and we were listening to it in the car and just going, this is so good. Like, vocally, it's great. The band's tight. It was all recorded live except for the harmonica. And yeah, it's just a really, really great album. Like, I've pinched lots of stuff out of that over the years. I used to be able to play a lot of the like licks and ideas from it, you know. Well, that wasn't quite right, I don't think. Something like that, anyway. RMG says, hey there, Shane. Glad you're enjoying the Kemper. You told me it was a glorified Mustang on a hangout once. Yeah, I know. I admitted to that. On my review of it. So, yeah, I owned up to the fact I thought it was going to be a huge, expensive, glorified Fender Mustang. But it actually isn't. For what it does really, really well. It's just ugly as sin. It is the ugliest looking thing. But, you know, who cares? It works. I don't like the look of this at all. I might actually get one. I think I'll get like the rack unit, put it up with the two notes at some point. Yeah, I love it, especially if you're doing this sort of stuff too, and just recording parts. I recorded 2 new backing tracks for the channel. Just when was it? 2 days ago, and I used that for the bass. It's got some bass profiles in there. Oh, it was just unreal. Like, plug in, done. So, yeah, I don't think I even did any post-production on the bass. It just sounded great. Maybe a compressor or something, but that was it. I'm holidaying in Singapore from Perth, and there's 5 guitar shops within walking distance. That sounds pretty good. That's from Barden. Nice stuff. All right. Yeah, the Rush soundtrack was amazing. If you've never heard it, first 25 minutes of Clapton wailing. It's awesome. Okay, cool. I don't know if I've heard that or not. Welcome, Whiskey. Nothing but my love to say from the cradle to the grave. Oh, yeah, that's a little blurb on there, absolutely. So, there's a really good, on my feed, on my channel, I posted a really cool interview with Clapton. He's sort of talking about where he's at now and and how he plans on just touring until he basically drops. It's a really cool interview. Just check it out. He talks about a lot of the old times as well, all the stuff that he remembers. Someone asked me about... Oh, here we go. Quentin says, Shane, have you seen any of my videos on Facebook or YouTube? Just asking so you know that I love playing the style. I may have. I get sent a lot of links, and I look at stuff, but I don't always comment on it as well. Feel free to just shoot me stuff on either on my Facebook page or via YouTube, and I'll take a look. You can't, unfortunately, post links in the chat. I agree the head is ugly, but the mount rack mount is okay. Yeah, and this is one of those things I'd never take to a gig. For what I do, it's just a waste of time. It would require me to bring more stuff to get a sound that's probably not... Well, the sound would be as good, but overall the functionality wouldn't be as good as just me bringing an amp. So for me, this is just an eyesore, man. They just cover it up, put a little towel over it or something. Clapton is on that Buddy Guy album. Yeah, I mean, I think I was actually in Chicago once when I bought that. Was it Skin Deep? It was on that album. That's a really great album. Bring 'Em In. Is that what it's called? Bring 'Em In? Or there was one after that as well. I've forgotten. Yeah, I've got quite a bit of Buddy Guy stuff. Buddy Guy is one of those guys you got to see live. Like, if you haven't seen him live, you're missing out. He might not... most people's assumption of Buddy Guy is he's maybe not... Back in the day, man, he could shred, right? And he can still play great, but I don't think he's sort of regarded as one of the best guitar players in blues. I don't think he ever quite got there. Like, he's great, and I love what he does. But you see him live, and his vibe and band and everything that he does is so much better than just about everybody, even now at his age. So he's awesome. He's really, really great to see live. Go see him. And try to see him if you can in a relatively small club, like his place in Chicago, or if he comes down and tours wherever you're at. Try see him somewhere that doesn't hold more than a few thousand people, and he'll be at his best, and the sound will be good. It's just an experience and a half. Most dynamic band I've ever seen, in terms of playing like whisper quiet on the drums to just slamming, man. It's really cool stuff. I went to the UK last year and made it to Anderton's. It was just as nice as it looks in the video. It's cool. The Kemper looks like a prop. Yeah, it does. It looks like the old ham radios. Yeah. You're right about that. I like the sound of that bridge. What's my favorite go-to guitar and amp? I get asked that a lot. It's kind of dependent on where I'm playing. I mean, overall, I've got my favorite, and it's usually the stuff I keep. For a jam night, and if I just want to turn up and plug in without any pedals, I'll take either the Peavey Bandit or I'll take the Marshall DSL-40, which is probably my favorite overall amp right now. The Marshall's just great. I used it last night at a full gig. The only pedal I had was going in the effects loop, and I had a wah on the floor. That was it. So I got away the whole gig without actually using any other pedals. I got to say, though, after last night, I'm kind of keen to try my Fender Blues Deluxe out again and put my pedal board back together, because it's just in parts at the moment, and give that a shot, because for me, I go through phases with stuff, as you can probably tell with this. So for me, it's just more about like what's the best amp for the gig. Like last night, the ideal amp would have been to take my Peavey Studio Pro, but I knew Ryan didn't have a small powered amp, so I had to bring something bigger. So it's more about what's the most functional and best thing for wherever I'm playing, and am I using pedals? That's also a deciding factor. If I'm using like overdrives and all that kind of stuff, I'll probably take the Fender or the Studio Pro. If I don't want to use pedals, I either take the Bandit or I take the Marshall. I don't really feel like I need all the other effects if I'm using one of those amps, because you can essentially just use your volume control and it does it all. Like it's really, really great. Listen to that cleanup. Kiss Eric Carr says, any thoughts on the Laney combo amps? Yeah, the 210 amps are pretty good. I had a VC30 for about 2 weeks. So that should give you an insight into how much I like that. I kind of feel like they're, and you know, people are probably going to hate me for saying this. I feel like they're a poor man's Vox. I think they don't do anything better than a Fender, and they don't do anything better than a Vox. I just think they're very lackluster. And for a 30-watt amp that I had with two 12-inch speakers, it wasn't very loud either. So the best one I heard was, I think, a 30-watt 210. The 210 ones are where it's at. They're real punchy, got a lot of attitude, great blues amps. But the one I owned, I just didn't bond with it at all. At the same time, I had a Hot Rod Deluxe, I think, and a... did I have my Traynor still? I can't remember. But yeah, and side by side, it was... I really just blew my money. So I was lucky I got it for a really good deal. I managed to sell it for the same price. So, yeah. Okay. I like the party sign in the background. Thanks, man. It's a little $4 Kmart special, that thing. You just plug it into a little battery pack and it's good to go. You're a great lefty. Keep them coming. Thanks, man. I missed the end of the pugilist video. How did it go? Look, the Fender pedals are actually okay. It's nothing I haven't really seen or heard before, but they do look cool. And if you don't already own pedals and you're thinking about buying them, they're a good choice. Like, there's nothing wrong with them. The only thing I have about those pedals, at least in some countries around the world, they're not cheap. And for a Chinese-made pedal, that's pushing it a little bit, you know, even though it has the Fender name on there. To be honest, I think that pedal shines in series mode. So when you're running both the dirty channels at the same time, instead of using the blend, that's where it really rocked. I actually really enjoyed it. It's one of my favorites. 3-Card Monty, welcome. I think I saw our Metal Stage podcast before too, so welcome, guys. Sorry, the chat moves. Yeah, I did. There we go. I was listening in earlier to your stream while I was doing some surgery on this at the table across the other side of the lounge room. Woo. I love the tone. Jeremy, take it easy. Thanks, man. Appreciate you hanging out. That's awesome. David says, Shane, my son bought a red stripe Peavey Bandit because of you. He ignored me telling him they were great. My son bought a red stripe Bandit because of you. He ignored me telling him they were great. Oh, okay, gotcha. Sorry, I thought you meant he changed his mind. Okay, gotcha. That's awesome. Cool. It's funny. You know what? This week I've had like 3 or 4 people say they've got a Peavey Bandit. Thank you so much. I was like, hey, no worries, man. Spreading the news. I know it's funny because there's a few people that have bought them. They go, oh, I don't really like it, but you turn those things up, they're amazing. So much like a valve amp, you got to kind of push them a little bit to get the most out of them, and just get a little bit used to how the EQ control works. They're a little different to, say, Fender or Marshall in terms of the EQ. All amps are. So, all right, Landon, thanks for hanging out, man. Appreciate that. Have a good night. It's probably pretty late there in Canada. Have I ever had a Roland amp? I've never owned one. I've demoed a number of them. I did the JC40, the 210s one. That rocks. I think that was great. I like the Blues Cubes as well. The thing with the Blues Cubes, if you're buying them new, they're expensive. You know, they're almost the same price as some valve amps or tube amps. At least where I live. It might be different in other parts of the world. But personally, yeah, I think they make great stuff. If they're going to become like the Peavey Bandit of now at some point, you know, in 10 years, people will be looking for current series of Blues Cubes because they're the same sort of thing as the Peavey Bandit without the, you know, the high gain distortion tones. So it's pretty cool. Blues Hound, thanks for that, man. Appreciate that. So I had a lot of comments on. I did a really quick video of the. What was it, the Fender Pro Junior, the tweed one? A lot of people seem to like that finger style stuff. So I've put a video together. It should be up in a week or so. Just with some concepts and ideas and how you can get that sort of stuff going if you want to learn it. A lot of the stuff I got, well, I explained it in the video anyway. So I put it together, a lesson concept video about you know, all that sort of stuff. You know, how you get your thumb going, and all the stuff I sort of think about. Alright, I still got the Kemper. Yeah, I have. I've got to do one more video with it. I got sent a whole lot of really great vintage amp profiles, and as well as new amp as well from 2Rock. They're all in here too, so I can switch to whatever amp you like, Vox or whatever. I want to put together a little video about that at some point before I give it back. So, cool. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate that, man. Have a good night, or have a good evening. Or afternoon, I should say. What time is it here? Yeah, 3:41. Peavey Bandit amp is much lighter than my JC120. Yeah, it would be. They're heavy amps, no doubt about it. The Peavey Bandits aren't light. I think a lot of people think they're going to be the lightest amp they've had if they've owned like a Hot Rod Deluxe or whatever, but they're not really that much different. There's some of the older ones are shaped differently, and they have a little bit less material, and the cabinet size is smaller. So that they might actually weigh a little bit less, but you know, the Peavey Bandits aren't the lightest amp in the world, but they're definitely a bit lighter than, you know, at least my Blues Deluxe by maybe a couple of kilos or pounds. Have I tried profiling an overdrive pedal in the chain yet? Remember when I told you to give the Mustang the ultimate upgrade by hooking the Kemper into the return signal? You need to try it. That sounds like a cool idea. I do remember that actually, but I don't have a Fender Mustang anymore, unfortunately. I could probably borrow one, but yeah, look, for what I need this for and what I wanted to test, it's been great. So this doesn't sound like Slayer at all. Yeah, let me see what I got in here. Let's mix it up. Oh, hang on, I'm gonna have to go down to. How do I do this? I'm still working my way around some of this. Oh, here we go. Now, I'm not sure what all of these are, but let's try a couple. Woo! I'm not much of a fuzz guy, but listen. It's dead quiet. Alright, Attila, I appreciate that. Thanks for the kind words. Great Vanzini says misses his teal stripe bandit. I think that might actually be clipping a little bit as well. Let's just back that off. And let's get off the fuzz, because I'm not a fuzz guy. What do we got here? Got high watt amps. The J-Mod. Let's try the J-Mod. There's one with a dirt pedal on it. Yeah, here we go. Let's try this. This is supposedly the J-Mod. The PRS one. Alright, so can I advise on a Strat pickup set for blues? There are so many available. I'm leaning towards Fat 50s or D'Allen. D'Allen makes some good stuff. I'd probably stay away from their rail pickups. I've owned them. I thought I liked them. After about a week, I didn't like them. Unlike the Joe Bardens. If you're thinking about like noiseless pickups, go Zex Coil or Joe Barden pickups. They're pretty good. In terms of single coil pickups, Fat 50s are really, really bright. I find them way too bright for blues. I couldn't stand it. And that was when I was playing a Hot Rod Deluxe, as well as a Blues Deluxe. I just couldn't get into it. And a Vox at that time too. So between all my amps, I just found them way too ice picky. So we were talking about Tex-Mex pickups earlier. I think they're a good cheap pickup to put in that should sound pretty good. I mean, Fender make just about it. Look, go for something like a 60 set onwards. That would be my suggestion, because I think you get a little less noise to signal ratio, so you get more sound than buzz. With some of the 50s style pickups, you get more buzz than signal. So at least in my opinion, anyway. Like I said, I've owned Fat 50s. A mate of mine still has it in his Strat, and he never plays it. He hates that guitar. So yeah, if you play with any sort of gain, or you use Fender amps, or you have an amp that has a bit of presence to it inherently, Fat 50s aren't the pickups, in my opinion. Look, some people probably swear by them. This is all subjective stuff. I'm just giving you my opinion through, experience. I've changed pickups 20 times in my Strats and Teles. Well, maybe not in my Teles, but yeah, at least in my Strats. All right, someone asked me a question here I wanted to get to, but I missed it. I rented a Helix for the second time, trying to see if it would cut it. It just doesn't. It just sucks, in my opinion. Now, I did a series with Rick about Telecaster Tuesdays, and I mentioned this on a stream following that up, or something, or a podcast. We actually used the Line 6 Helix on all of those videos. He owns it. We didn't mention what amp we were using or anything, and it sounded great. I also had a chance to play that live straight into a PA system without using an amp or anything. So pedal board on the floor, plug it into the PA, much like how I'm doing this with the Kemper, and it was great. Like, we had tube screamer set up and a Klon set up, and it was deluxe reverb preset on the amp, and it was awesome. So I was more, I gotta say, I like that way more than I like the new Fender Mustangs. Like, there was no comparison to my ear, but it's a very, very different thing. Like, that's the sort of tool you want to go straight into a PA system with. You probably don't want to just go into an amp with it. You're not going to get the most out of it that way. Yeah, so look at it very much like how you look at a Kemper. I think it's a very similar idea, just way more functional. It comes with a foot switch. You don't have to spend another, $1,000, $1,300 on a foot switch for this monstrosity over here. So I love this thing, by the way. It's like a horror monster or something, like, look at it. It's crazy. Oh, how's this go again? I've forgotten. That's supposed to be the John Mayer amp. Let's add some dirt. Where's the dirt? Where's the dirt? I can't remember. I haven't used this for a while. Yeah, here we go. Is that Fizz City, or is that alright? Yeah, I don't like that so much. I'm going to go back to mine. Oh yeah, you got to go like this. Actually, I'll tell you what. Let's try this. This is supposed to be a Vox, I think, or a match. So I guess it's either a matchless or a Vox. Sounds alright. Thoughts on PCB via versus hand-wired? Is the price justifiable? Been looking at a Bassman with a PCB or a 57 hand-wired Tweed. Oh yeah, this is one of those things. You'll probably find, like, the one advantage to hand-wired amps is they're much easier to repair, right? Because they can get in there and just replace a part, as opposed to pulling out the board and replacing that. Tone-wise, I don't know if there's enough in it to justify the price. I think I was talking to Rick about this. He wants to buy a deluxe reverb worth $3,800 second-hand because it's hand-wired. I can buy a new one for $1,500. Like with a PCB one, and the PCB one sounded great. So you're paying for a different thing. It's kind of like, do you want to buy a custom shop guitar over an American series one? It's more about, I think, almost, if you can afford to do it and it's not going to hurt you financially, then go for it. But I don't know if you're going to hear that much of a difference between it. And I know not everyone will agree with that, but I've owned PCB amps. I've tested hand-wired amps against them. Sometimes mine was louder. So, like the PCB one was louder. Other times, there was some differences to some extent. Usually what guys do who hand wire amps, and I don't know about Fender, but sometimes they use different cabinet materials as well. So like any speaker, if you've got a different wood, in the actual cabinet, it's going to affect the bass response as well. And that's inherent just to acoustics. Like if you look at a set of hi-fi speakers, certain woods, tone woods, I guess, for the actual cabinets are selected. It's different to tone wood on guitar, but that's, part of the actual boom of the sound. Supposedly the actual cabinet wood does affect that. So I'm not sure if all things are equal and the only difference is hand wired versus PCB. You probably find the PCB stuff is the most consistent because the parts won't really vary. It'll just be like, they're made to a spec. I think one of the other things that sets hand wired stuff apart is its uniqueness. Sometimes you'll find a dud. Sometimes you'll find some really great stuff that will sound very different if it's compared to another hand wired amp, supposedly the same thing. So there's a bit of that in there too. Kemper Mondays. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I could do something like that, I guess. I got access to a lot of amps right now, so that might be kind of fun. Let's play the hits. Let's never do that again. All right. Mini humbuckers. Mini humbuckers are awesome. Oh, you mean these? Yeah, so if you just joined, the Joe Bardens are back in the Tele. I thought I'd admit to this publicly instead of just showing up. I did have another name for this live stream, but I changed it last minute. I thought I'd do a full video on that topic. So, yeah, just listen to that. Neck pickup. It's quiet. And that's what I'm also finding in this room, but in particular, the 68, oh not 68, what's it called, the 64 Dan electric guitar has a P90 in it, so I've got to watch the buzz on that too if I use it for other videos. Same with my Strat too, I'm always on the in-between positions most of the time. Hey dude, you should really learn at least one metal riff. Alright, challenge is on. Let's dial something up. Yeah. I know almost one metal riff. Can I give it a go here? Let's go to my rigs. I'll crank up the Peavey. Ah, jeez. Come on. All right. I've been working on this White Zombie song a little bit, although I haven't been working on it so much the last couple of weeks, but I started working on it, so I might break that out at some point. Ah. Yeah, that's it. There it goes. I'm gonna get it. This is the year I learned some weird and obscure stuff, and I got a funny video in store for that. CJ Blake says, I'm primarily a home player. Should I keep buying tube amps or go with the Kemper? Look, if you're playing at home, the Kemper's pretty cool. The only thing is, you can't really hook it up to an extension box. So, the reason I say that is because this thing's output is 600 watts, so it blows speakers like nobody's business. But if you're just playing with headphones or you're going into a computer or a sound card and you're listening to it back through studio monitors, it's phenomenal. Like, it's the best thing for that. So, if you don't plan on actually having your amp like on and you just want to, what I do, I usually listen to it through these speakers you see behind me here. So I can set the volume however I like, or headphones. It sounds great in my headphones too. So yeah, that's what I'm hearing is probably what you're hearing. Maybe a little less fidelity through the stream, but not a whole lot. So yeah, I really think these are really great home units if you don't want to have to, if you can't crank your amps. But don't think you can just plug this into any 12-inch speaker you've got. You'll blow it up. All right, let me move the chat here. Whoa, all right. Dr. McFarlane says, I'm off to bed. It's getting late here in Nashville. I had to get to Nashville at one point. Nashville would be awesome. John says he has a Fender made in Mexico Baja 50s Tele. Oh, they're great. If I could get a lefty of one of those, I would. It's pretty much the same guitar as this. This is a US one. But yeah, the Baja stuff is awesome. I'd love to get one of them. I don't think I've ever seen a lefty of those anywhere. Man, I love not having the buzz. I'm so used to having to turn my volume down. Can you help me with solo timing? In position 1, what are the best landing blues notes on a 12 bar? See, with the first chord in blues, if you're playing in a dominant, like a 7th, you can basically, what I do anyway, and this isn't, the right or wrong way to do it, is you can essentially play either minor, so you can play that, that minor pentatonic thing, or you can start experimenting with the major stuff, and that's kind of what I do over position 1 a lot. So I'll start mixing in notes that might not theoretically kind of fit, but it works because it's part of the major scale. So yeah, you can, if you don't know the major scale, you can kind of go 3 frets back and play the same scale, but your landing notes will be different. So instead of just going and ending on your root of the A, if you land on that same reference position, it's not going to work, right? You're going to have to pick a different A. So you're going to have to get your head around that a little bit. But the easiest thing to do with position 1, you can pretty much do anything. And I also suggest playing most of the notes between most of these notes too. All of those notes work great. Yeah. You see me do that a lot. That's basically like part of the major scale. So over the 1 chord, you can do that, or you can get into that B.B. King sort of box too. So go up to the 10th fret to the 12th fret. And a lot of that stuff will work over the 1. There's no rules, man. All this stuff you can sort of translate on the chord changes too. It might not make a lot of sense. Hopefully that made some sense though. Alright, Mario says in reference to the hand-wired amps, he says they're a little bit easier to mod. Yeah, well, that's absolutely right too. Yeah, because you don't have that whole PCB thing to deal with. All the parts are much more visible, but I'm assuming most people probably don't go modding their amps that much. They might change the speaker, but a lot of people are too scared to touch or even open their amps. Even guys I know that have been playing 30 years. You should do a series of blind or double blind tests with the Kemper maybe. I always loved your blind test videos in the past. Maybe get Rick to try and do it too. Absolutely. Actually, that'd be a really cool idea. I think him and I are going to get together pretty soon and shoot some stuff. So whenever that happens, I might see if he can bring some of his amps over, or I'll go to his place and we'll do it at his joint, and we'll see whether or not we can do some more blind tests. I used to do them all the time. I haven't done so many of them lately. Someone said they also haven't caught me on a live stream in a while. I haven't done one for a while, actually. The last one I did was the Hangout, and that was a few weeks back. How long am I going to keep the Kemper? I'll probably have it till the end of next week, and then I'll take it back. It is awesome. I've got all these custom presets in here, patches or whatever they're called, profiles, that I need to get off there and revert it back to stock once I'm done with the last video. But I think I'll probably have access to the head, so that's where I'll probably go. This one will go back to the shop. I feel more inspired to play at home through a tube amp. Well, that's the thing. I mean, they do feel good to play through. if it's a good amp and you like the tone. The good thing about the Kemper, though, the only trade-off I've got listening to this in my headphones is I don't feel the wall of sound. You know, it sounds like my amp would sound if I mic'd it up and I was listening through it through headphones in another room. So you don't get that, you know, that interaction between the volume and the speaker, and you get that extra bit of oomph and sustain. You don't have that. But in terms of just being able to profile your amps and record with it, it's a really great tool. Or even just listening to, you know, nothing to stop you from practicing with that. Put a backing track through the sound card or whatever, and you'll be good to go. Alright, Shane, I got to get going to my gig. Have a good gig, man. Appreciate that. Thanks, Ben. Have fun. I had a gig last night, and I'm still recovering from it. No, not that I drink or anything, but I'm just exhausted. I'm going to start doing a few trio gigs again. See if I can get my trio chops back. I've gotten a little lazy, I reckon, with my some of my practice and all of that. So it'd be good to do the trio. Alright, so coming up to, I hope to do a bit of a live gig stream. That's one thing I've got planned for this year. I've invited, Rick will be there, Ryan, obviously, Brian, this other guy, Dom, who I don't think anyone on the channel has seen yet. He's a phenomenal guitar player, like unbelievable, very different. We're all very different in the way we play. And I'll put together a band, drums and bass as well. And we'll just stream out a gig somehow. I think I've worked out the logistics side of doing something like this too, so it should be fun. That Kemper looks like the 1950s radio from here. Yeah, it does. Someone else mentioned that before. It looks like an old CB radio or something. The head. Yeah, it's a beast. It's powering my party sign at the moment too. Hoping Shane posts a new guitar search to watch with my coffee. Alright, so there will be more of those coming up. I don't have any more right now, like in editing or anything. So those videos really take a long time. And I don't dislike the process, but I also don't... That last one I did, I was happy with it, but I was really tired when I did the voiceover. And I repeated myself a lot, and I wasn't aware of it until someone picked it up, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're absolutely right. So rather than sort of rush it out, and I want to, the next lot of shops I do, I want to be in a different area, either in Australia or somewhere else. So I'm kind of working on that at the moment. So I will have more coming up this year. I want to get to 30 episodes by December, and we're on track for that. So start drinking heavily while playing gigs. Yeah, I've tried that once. When I was away once, I had a few shots and then played, and I was alright at the start, and then I was like, this isn't working. Been playing with VST plugins for a long time, but nothing compares with an amp. I feel the same way about VST plugins. I think they're good, but they're not. They're never going to replace an amp. They can get close. Well, see, when you're recording though, it really doesn't matter. That's the thing. If you're just jamming, it's fine. If you're laying down an album, you're going to get good tones, and no one's going to know the difference. It just doesn't feel the same playing it, and that's sort of the same with this. If I was to record this, you'd swear it's that amp and that mic, but it feels a little different to play. And it's not that different though. This is probably the closest thing you're going to get to. I even would say the Helix kind of does this as well extremely well. I know someone else mentioned earlier they didn't like the Helix, but this really is a reference of what you put in front of it. And I think this is about as close as you're going to get without having that wall of sound. And for people that don't know how to record properly or whatever, you know, you can get profiles for this stuff, and it makes it easy. So it almost makes it foolproof, because you're going to get the same sound and consistency on all of the songs that you record, because you can just have that sound if you want that same sound over all of the album. So that's a cool thing about, you know, plugins as opposed to using amps. Amps will give you a different sound depending on where they are in the room, how loud they are, what pedals you're using with it, where the mic's placed, not only its placement, but what kind of mic you're using. So I'm all for having consistency in recording. So how do you tell a friend in the band that his vocals just don't cut it? I don't know. I think most people are... Depends what you're trying to do. If you're having fun, like I'm not the strongest singer. I just have fun and I enjoy it. So, and I think I'm not trying to, like, play big gigs in Australia. There are no big gigs in Australia for blues. It's just a waste of time. So there are some small festivals and, all that are locally. There's Byron Bay and all that, obviously, too. But that's a great festival. But in terms of the local blues scene, it's pretty much a sad state of affairs. So if you're just playing for fun and you can put up with it, put up with it. If it annoys you a lot and you're trying to do something big and grand, then you'll need to find a better singer. What's my band's name? You can find that out at shanesband.com. Thoughts on the PRS Silver Sky? I actually did a podcast about that, so if you check out my last podcast, there's a time code. You can click it and check that out. Overall, I think it's fine. Like, if John had gone to any other company and said, this is what I'm looking for, they would have built him a Strat. So, I don't think PRS would have necessarily have made a Strat copy that accurate. I know back in the 90s, they released those weird sort of big Strats. But the pickups were a bit different and the body shape was really different. So I think it just comes down to, if you've got an artist that you've got a license to print money with, you basically try to keep those guys happy and build something that works. And I couldn't care less, because a lot of companies people herald as being fantastic are basically Fender copies or Gibson copies. So, it's just the way it is. Couldn't care less. I'm looking forward to checking it out, I got to say. I'd like to pick one up and sort of see how it feels. I know they probably won't make lefties, but Rick and I are definitely keen on checking them out. Is the trans tube Peavey Rage okay, or is the Bandit better? The Bandit kills the Rage. The Rage is this little tiny, 8-inch speaker amp. It's not something you can play live with or whatever. If you're looking for a home amp, though, the Rage is probably a better choice, because the Peavey you got to kind of turn up a bit. But yeah, I mean, the Rage is more like a home practice amp. It's kind of, I don't know if you can see it, that Bugera back there, that would be way louder than the Peavey Rage. And the Peavey, what's under it? The Peavey Bandit's under it right now. So, yeah, you can see the difference in the size. That's comparable to how the Peavey Rage is as well. For the record, tone doesn't matter that much, but for the tone in the room, digital isn't there yet. Yeah. You record a tone. Yeah, you're right. On albums, people aren't going to listen to the, you're listening to the music. It's different. And when you hear it in context, you're not going to be able to pick it. It's when the player's going to notice it, and that's about it. But like I said, this feels really good to play. This, sounds like what I heard when I recorded the patch. So, and that was the idea. I dialed up the drive earlier for that sort of White Zombie stuff. My snake pickup is awesome. Would I ever review a Gibson 2018 Modern V? Yeah, look, if I get a chance to. I don't know if I ever will, but yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm open to trying new stuff. Are you using the space parameter in the output section? I have it at 5.9. You know what? I don't know. That was just a profile that I recorded. So odds are it's whatever the default is. I don't know this back to front. I know how to do like the basic stuff with it, which was enough to kind of get me going. I never read the instructions either, as I mentioned earlier. So no, odds are I think I've got delay on there? No, I don't know. So that space thing, probably not. I've just basically tried to capture the sound that I had on my amp. Alright, so Guzman, I'm not sure how to pronounce your first name, so I apologise, says, been looking to get my first tube amp for home use only, been looking at the Tweed Pro Junior. Thoughts? I loved it. It was it's a great little amp. Yeah, Rick and I both kind of felt like that had a lot of vibe. You plug it in and you're good to go. It's not too loud that you're going to get in trouble with your neighbours. If you live in an apartment block or something, you probably will. But if you can turn it up and not... You could probably not annoy like people living in the other, on either side of you or anything. It's not overly loud, but it's definitely loud enough to get that really great sounding little... Yeah, I don't know. It sounds bigger almost than its size too, and it doesn't need reverb. I know a lot of people know that I like reverb, but that was one amp I just felt like the sustainer inherently of it and the way it breaks up. You don't really need to add anything to that. It just sounds great. So I really like it. And if you ever decide you want to use something like a 2-notes torpedo or whatever, you can go straight out of that amp into that as well. Give you even more options. I have a Rage 158 and use it as my bench amp. It's great for that. Yeah, cool. Yeah, they're good little amps. But I mean, when you're comparing them to an 80-watt amp with a 12-inch speaker, there's no comparison. Sound-wise, they're going to be completely different. But yeah, this is what someone asked me earlier, what's my favorite amp? Depends on the situation. Is the Junior still pretty loud? Look, 15 watts, yeah. Like I said, they're loud enough for home use. They're not loud enough to get over a loud drummer. No way. They're not as loud as a Blues Junior. And even though they're both rated at 15 watts, the cabinet size plays a huge part of the actual tone, or volume, I should say, and the speaker size. So I'd suggest go playing one because everybody's situation is different. Like I said, it's not going to be anywhere near as loud as it won't even be as loud as my, I almost feel like the Bigera was almost a louder amp, and that's rated at 5 watts. So maybe it's the cabinet size, or I'm not too sure what it is, but the way that the Fender Pro Junior, it gets dirty really quick. So even at 12 o'clock, it's starting to get dirty. To get a clean sound at a low volume, you can do that. But to get it to break up, you got to have it at 12 o'clock or further up. Hope that made sense. I'm not too sure. Space parameter is a global setting that applies to all profiles post. It makes the Kemper more pleasing to play through headphones. Oh, okay. So it's like a room and an ambient thing. Oh, that's cool. No, I haven't tried that, actually. I don't know where it is, but I'll look into it. Thanks for the heads up. Do I get a chance to check out the Zin sound pedals? I think that's how you pronounce that. I never heard of them. So, yeah, I'm not too sure. Hey Shane, do you think the Fender Mustang V2 amps are worth keeping in your collection since the new amps just aren't that well received or recovered? Received. Could the old models go up in value? Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think like all tech, old tech is never as expensive, as the newest thing, just because people generally won't know any better. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they'll ever go up or what. I think the next incarnation of the Fender Mustangs will hopefully be a whole lot better. I hope they took some criticism and will do something better next time. Because they're night and day. They really are. Every time I hear Rick's, and we were talking about this on the phone today, he says, yeah, they've added some new effects where it sounds like the amp's in 2 rooms across now instead of 1. Whereas those other ones were just blisteringly loud and had a really great 3D sound. But I don't know if they'll ever be worth more. It's just a hard thing to... Yeah, digital stuff doesn't always go up in price. I can't think of one thing that's like digital or whatever that's worth more now other than old retro video games. So maybe. Alright, thanks man, I appreciate that. I know the Kemper's inside out. Appreciate the heads up. That's all Tele, man. Hi Shane, any quiet amp recommendations for an apartment with the occasional jamming with a drummer? Wow. No. I can't help you. That's like as soon as you get a drummer and he's loud, I can't think of one home amp that's going to sound any good. The only thing I could probably suggest is getting like maybe the Marshall DSL 15, because you can kind of drop, I think you can drop that down to like 7 watts or something. And that might be okay for home use, but 7 watts at home is still really loud. So I can't really think of anything that would do both. Yeah. No, if anyone has suggestions in the chat, let him know. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Because home use, you don't want a big speaker. You know, like 5 watts for home is generally loud enough. Like, it depends. Like, there's some amps out there, like my Bugera V5 over here has 5 watts of power. But you can switch it down to, 2 and then, or 1 watt and then 0.1 watt or something. So you can really notch it down, and it's a great home amp, but it's probably not loud enough to be jamming with a drummer. But if you're at a rehearsal room, you can mic it up. So you can think about doing something like that. The only amp that would almost kind of do that is a Blues Junior, but if you're playing at home, it's not going to sound at its best. You kind of got to turn them up as well, and they may be just loud enough for some bands, but not all. Stan Lee says, it's 2:15 a.m. and you're making me want to plug in my Tele. I don't know Hideaway, you know. I never learnt that. Yeah, I never learnt that riff. It's kind of got this rolling sort of vibe to it. Yeah, I haven't actually learnt that before. I know the song, but yeah. What's my group's name? Just go to shanesband.com. Good morning from Athens, Greece. That's from Eddie. Welcome, man. Just what mic and what amp do you have? Oh, okay. So I'm using the Rode NT1. It's just a condenser mic. It's there it is, and I'm playing through the Kemper, which is this lunchbox looking creature back here. Straight out of the 50s. Maybe they were going for that, you know? Like, looking at that, it does look like something out of the 50s. Not that I'm old enough to know that, but I watch a lot of old movies. The new Marshall Origin amps, you can cut to 1 watt, I think. Yeah, that's cool. That's from Guillermo. I'm horrible at pronouncing that name. I used to work with a guy with exactly the same name. He used to make me call him William because I'd butcher his name. Guillermo. Hang on. Yeah, so the Origin amps I haven't actually tested yet. I haven't seen any in Australia yet. They might be here this month. And also, I've been asked a million times, when am I doing the rest of the version 4 Fender amps? They still haven't arrived. So as soon as they turn up, I'll definitely be getting together with Ryan or Rick or someone, and we'll be shooting some videos. Hey, what's the breakup point of the Blues Junior? It kind of depends on your guitar. And this is one thing I found out last night. Using my PRS and then going over to my Telecaster with single coil pickups, it felt like a 20 to 25% volume drop on my Tele. So I'd walk over and crank the amp up a little more. And that's kind of normal, right? You expect that. But the way that the amp breaks up is different on also how hard the person's dynamics are, or different the dynamics are when they're playing. Like, some people just pick like and other people go, they really dig in. So keep that in mind. It's sort of like what they do have is a drive and volume control. There's no dedicated clean channel. It's just like one channel, which is cool. That's a really great setup. But you know, you can keep the gain down and crank it up to probably, I'll keep the gain, I don't know, like 9 o'clock, and start winding up the volume. But at some point in time, depending on those factors, you're probably going to find it's going to break up anyway. There's no way to keep that dead clean. Some speakers give it a bit more headroom as well, so keep that in mind. It's been a while, sorry. I don't play a lot of Stevie stuff, but that's from 3 Carb Monty. There we go. That's the butchered version. Oh, all right. I gotta ask everybody something too. Or give you a heads up. Put this down for a sec. So the gear thing is kind of getting old for me. Like, not talking about it. I love talking about it. I love playing. But I'm definitely going to start pulling down, or not pulling down, but pulling back on all the pedal stuff. The Fender stuff that I've got in editing, I don't even know if I'm going to finish it. I felt like this a while back and I stopped doing them for a while. So I'm pretty certain I'm not going to be doing too many more pedal demos. I got 3 I want to do. And these are ones I actually wanted to do. I actually spoke to the companies. I said, I'd love to check this stuff out because I actually like your stuff. So I'm going to be really selective with pedal demos coming up. I'm not going to just try and do everything like I used to. I started doing that a while back. So you started to notice more and more pedals weren't showing up on the channel. I was starting to do more amps and guitars and stuff. And that's kind of what I want to do. But I also want to try some different videos that are still, you know, music related, that might be a little bit different. So if anyone has any concepts or ideas, please let me know too. I have some stuff I'm definitely going to be working on, and I'm going to see sort of how that works. But the stuff like that video I did with Ryan, we're just driving around, that new Guitar Day video, that went over really well. People seem to really get into that sort of stuff. So I thought maybe I might mix up some of the content a little bit, maybe shoot some more sort of other stuff that's still relating to music. So I'm happy to sort of try different things and take on suggestions as well. Do I know any Gibson dealers in Australia? There's plenty. I mean, just check out Gibson dealers on Google in Australia. You'll find millions of them. So they got picked back up. It's funny, when I posted that podcast video about no distributors, I literally heard that about a week before from the owner of Sky Music. They didn't know what was going on. And I think right on that day or right around that time I posted that video, they'd just been picked up again. So in terms of distributors, so there's plenty of dealers. They're you know, all over Melbourne. I don't know where you live, but yeah, there's plenty. There's plenty around. Do I plan on doing any more tutorials anytime? Yeah, absolutely. There's one coming up. There's one coming up in about a week. I finished it, and I think it's a pretty solid video. So that might sort of give me a gauge on what people like or dislike too. So who's my favorite blues artist? Well, currently Chris Kane, who is up behind there. He's a San Fran guy. Oh, that's not going to move, is it? Is this going to work? Oh, no, look, I won't move the camera. It's going to fall. But Chris Kane, C-A-I-N. He's from San Francisco. He's fantastic. He's my current favorite. I love Tommy Castro as well. They're probably my 2 favorites. In terms of more recent guys, unfortunately, Michael Burke's here, died recently. He's phenomenal. Most of the guys that are on this wall are dudes I really liked over the years. You know, the favorite players of all time for me and inspirations: Albert King, Eric Clapton. I always liked Robert Cray stuff as well. What's my opinion on 8-gauge strings? It just depends on what you like, man. For me, I always prefer to play at least 10s, 10 or 11s, and that's still what I play today. But you know, it's not going to make a huge difference in sound. There might be some videos out there that show you this kind of stuff, whether or not there's a huge tone difference. I don't think it's anything you probably couldn't make up for with volume on your amp. Maybe. I don't know how you keep up with the pedal demos. Yeah, look, I've heard it all. You know, it dawned on me a little while ago. I was talking to the guys at our Metal Stage podcast on one of their live streams, and I was saying, like, I've gotten to the point where I've heard it all. And the only reason someone like myself would want to go buy a pedal is if I didn't already have a pedal of that type. It's gotten to that point with the market where there's almost everything, and there's so many duplicates of stuff that do pretty much the same thing, maybe not as easily. That's what it comes down to. So I kind of see, like, my objective with doing these videos now is to give people like an insight. Is it easy to use? You know, is it how hard is it to get a good sound out of it in comparison to something else? That's kind of how I see my role with it now, as opposed to just showing people stuff. I feel like I'm coming to the end of the pedal demos thing. I really feel like, unless there's something that I really want to test, like there's some companies I love their stuff and I use their stuff on my board, like the VS Audio stuff's great, and I've also got Lightning Boy stuff, which is different, right? So if I get stuff that's coming in that's different and unique, that's what I'm trying to do more of. So that's why I do a lot of companies out of Greece, some of the US stuff as well as the Australian stuff. I know a few of them have been kind of like clones of other pedals, but they're unique in some way. Like in terms of if you switch this, they do something completely different. So I want to start doing more. I'm going to just, if I do pedal demos coming up, I think it's going to be more obscure stuff. I find like the time I spent on those Fender videos, I spent 2 full days of filming and putting together, like, you notice my shirt changes in a lot of the clips. It's because I do like one section of the video one day, one section of the video the next day. And then I sort of edit them all together. I'm kind of feeling like I don't really need to do them anymore. Like, I don't even know if I want to finish editing all those videos. That's kind of how I feel about it. It's basically, pedals now have come to the point where if you liked something and you don't already own something that does that particular sound, then it's almost like you don't need it. Like, just to buy a new pedal from, like, this is exactly how I felt about the Fender stuff. If you're new to pedals, they're a great choice. If you already own an Overdrive, you don't need to go buying their new one. It's not going to give you any different, it's not really going to change your sound, or because you're going to dial in that pedal the way that you've already got your own pedal set up. Unless you don't like your current pedal, then you can also go buy stuff. But it's interesting. Like, I just think, I'm a little bit, I just felt really flat doing a lot of the videos lately of just hearing the same sort of thing, because I guess the way I look at it now as when I play live, and I said this to Rick, my sound in the Marshall now when I play live is how I would dial in my Fender amp if I had pedals. And that's to say, like, the sound I've got is in here. So the sound I can kind of get that almost out of everything, and it's in my hands as well. But a lot of it comes down to the sound you want, right? And so many pedals will give you that. It's just about their ease. And that's why I like stuff like the VS Audio pedal. I can plug that in, it sounds great. You know, the everything at 12 o'clock rule. You shouldn't need a lot of toggle switches and different ways it can go through the signal. All that kind of stuff is just overcomplicates something that should be very easy. Turn it on and make your sound better. That's how it should sound. So, I think I'm pretty much done with a lot of the pedal stuff. I'll get these next few done, because I'm actually looking forward to these, and they're unique and twists on stuff. But yeah, I really feel like I'm going to give it a break. Unless, of course, I'm doing some comparison videos of certain pedals that I'm kind of interested in showing people. Or if you want to see it as well. So I do have access to hundreds of pedals at the moment as well. I've just chosen not to do it. What I am going to be doing is grabbing 10 wah pedals and putting them on the floor and seeing if there's any difference. I definitely want to do that. That'll be a good fun video. Yeah, someone just said, Space Jazz says you're bored with pedals. I said that before. Yeah, absolutely. I think I know my sound, I know what I like, and I can get that out of 90% of the stuff I see come through the door. Whether, obviously pedals have differences between each other, but you go for the sound you like, right? I think that's the misconception is, when I dial my sound in with this new pedal I want, isn't going to sound any different to the pedal I have. And that's where I think there's a bit of confusion. All right, anyway, that's enough of that. Space Jazz says, picking up an Ash Strat from Sky Music next week. Awesome stuff, man. Cool. Congrats. That's cool. Any how-to playing videos, welcome. Awesome, cool. All right, thanks, man. Look, I still review stuff, like even with the Fender stuff. I mentioned, like, why isn't no one mentioning these things are made in China? Like, it was just no one. At least I don't watch a lot of gear demos, but the ones I saw of it didn't seem to mention some obvious stuff. That, yeah, I don't know, man. So we'll see how I go. I think I'm just getting a bit burnt out with pedals. And And I'm not seeing enough of a difference. So that's why now when I've been declining stuff a lot the last few weeks, with the exception of a few here, which are 100% unpaid videos. These are... I've got a series I'm going to start, right? And it's going to be called something like Great Cheap Gear. And it's not guitar related. I mean, it's music guitar related, but it's not just guitars, cheap guitars or anything like that. That's been done to death. But I got some stuff off Amazon that was like the bargain basement stuff. And we're going to test it out and see if those will be useful for people for either home recording or stuff like that. So a little bit, different gear. All right. Do you keep the pedals you review? On the most part, yes. There's sort of a few reasons. Like, everyone's got a different sort of YouTube model. I try to, remain unpaid on a lot of my videos. There's some that I do make a few bucks on, but they're the pedals that I know I can't resell for much. Like, if I'm going to review a $30 pedal, or demo a $30 pedal, I'm not, to spend 8 hours on a $30 pedal, or 5 hours, isn't worth my time. I got to start prioritizing stuff. So that isn't what I want to do anymore. I don't really want to do any cheap gear anymore. I don't want to do just expensive gear either, but I want to be selective, like I said before. So this will kind of just mean whatever stuff I get in is the stuff I resell to make ends meet. That's pretty much how this works. And that's part of the agreement. And pedal companies know. They're like, yeah, I didn't think you were going to keep it. They know. They asked me a few months later, hey, have you still got it? I'm like, no, I sold it to pay my electricity bill. So I had over 120, 30 pedals at one point. And it's like, what am I going to do with these? So they go out the door. That's it. Is rock and blues dead? I think it just depends on where you live, There's definitely an audience for it. But we were rocking last night, man. We had one of the best guitar players in the city, sitting in with the band. It was great fun. And someone's like, play something we know. It's like... Stupid drunk bogans, man. For those who don't know the term bogan, look it up. It's an Australian, it's Aussie term. Sonia, welcome. Maybe do some videos on the most economical recording setups to dream setups. Oh, there we go. Thank you. It's a great idea. A lot of people are really surprised when they see how little studio stuff I have. I used to have a studio in 2007 and 8. I was upstairs at a warehouse, and I had racks of gear. And you know what? You don't need it all. So that's a really great idea. Thanks, Whiskey. Says you're a true connoisseur of gear. I think it's I always say this, I think it comes down to being able to use it in real life, outside of the house or outside of the demo. A lot of these guys don't play live, or they might do it once every 3 years or something, but being able to test stuff in the real world is a different perspective, I think, to a lot of guys that just do videos. They don't gig, they don't have a band, they don't understand how stuff sticks out of the mix. Or if it works well in a live context. And I think it's just, being around gear for so long and trying everything and wasting a lot of money on stuff for the same tone. Nah, look, my tone has definitely gotten better over the years, but it's funny how very similar it is even to, my first proper good amp, even though my playing's changed, so... True temperament frets. These are 6105 stainless steel on this. These are I got these put in after I wore out those vintage frets, and that's the new nut. I got the new nut sorted out, which is cool. And the Joe Bardens, they're back. Welcome, Buzz Free Life. Listen. Man, that is great. That is so good. For those who probably just joined the stream, it started about the Joe Barden pickups going back in and why. You can watch that back at the start later. This is from Sonia. People are getting back into real high definition audio equipment again. High dollar amps, speakers, and even turntables for vinyl records. One Aussie company has just patented a new vinyl press. Awesome. You know what? It's funny you mentioned that. Actually, the other day. You know how Bluetooth speakers are really popular because you can move them around. I kind of miss the days I had an AV receiver. Like, the only reason I don't have it is because it finally packed up and died after 15 or more years. It was awesome. Like, I've got decent speakers out there and a sub and stuff. I was thinking, man, maybe I should just get like a good stereo receiver and just enjoy music like that again. Because I think nowadays, like, everyone's listening through Bluetooth speakers or headphones. Headphones are fine too, but I really miss being able to just go clank. What pickups are in the Tele? So Michelle, they're Joe Barden, Danny Gatton pickups. So they are noiseless, but they're very low output rail style pickups. So they got the chime. Yeah, I am chuffed over removing the hum. After last night, man, you have no idea how, like, uninspired this guitar made me play. I was really looking forward to playing it. After playing the PRS, the first set, plugged in. I didn't even get through a handful of songs before I just put the PRS back in and went, oh, there you go, no buzz. So yeah. What other YouTube's channels do you like watching? I watch a lot of stuff outside of the guitar industry. That's probably the stuff I watch the most. I mean, in terms of if you're asking about just straight up guitar channels, that'll be... I actually like watching Steve from Boston. I almost called him Pixie Licks again. His live streams are great. Let me have a look at my subs. I'll bring this up. So I watch a lot of different channels in different genres, but my favorite one on YouTube by a mile right now is Red Letter Media. So just look up those guys. They do the funniest movie reviews ever. I reckon they're arguably the best channel on YouTube. They got a lot of subscribers. They should have 10 times more. They're really, really funny. I like watching Cinemassacre as well, which is like a gaming / movie review thing as well. They've got a whole lot of different content, actually. I watch a lot of fitness channels as well. I like Athlean X. I've been working out for about 1.5 years now. And I like to kind of get knowledge from guys that know what they're doing. Marcus Brown, or MKVHD, however you say his name. He's like a tech review guy. I really like his channel. The Camera Store TV is another favorite of mine. I'm into camera gear. I like to sort of sit down and watch their stuff. I think their reviews are second to none if you're into sort of like cameras and stuff. I also... A lot of sort of tech channel. I got Stefan Molyneux as well. Another one I watch a lot. But in terms of like guitar channels, my subscriptions are pretty much Nick in the States. I've subscribed to Music Is Win. You know, I didn't really know much about his channel up until recently. Kind of interesting character, that guy. He's a little odd, but in a kind of interesting way. Like very, very articulate and cool. Yeah, I got a whole lot of I think I got about 180 subscribers. I love the This Is Dan Bell YouTube channel as well. Check out that if you want to watch some different stuff. Guitar Lust Euphoria says, got a Marshall DSL 40 CR. I love it. Awesome stuff. Cool, well done. I love mine. Gigged with it all night last night. No pedals apart from the wah, and I had the effects loop with the delay pedal, the Citec delay. Man, it was great. You mean the AVGN? Yeah, that's it. James Rolfe. Yeah, absolutely. Check out, if you like that, go check out Red Letter Media if you don't know that. Type in, just look for that channel. They've got movie reviews of like the best of the worst. They have this series where they pick like 3 like C grade movies that are that bad, you know, and they'll try and find the best of the worst. And the guys that are on that channel, man, are just phenomenal, like hilarious dudes. So I like a lot of that weird stuff like that. I listen to Joe Rogan as well. I don't like all of his shows, but I find like some of his guests really good. The Ben Heck Show, I'll stay subscribed to him until June, until he retires. Yeah. I love the tone of this thing now. No buzz. Music Win is a genius. Is a guitar super system course. It's just the best courses. Oh, okay, cool. I didn't know they did that sort of stuff. I'll have to check it out. What are your thoughts on Rickenbackers? Any love for the Jangle Masters or Jingle Jangle Masters? Yeah, I don't know if I've played a lefty. You know, like I like the look of them. I just can't recall actually ever playing a left-handed Rickenbacker ever. I don't know. I think Jerry had one once, like years ago when I was over there, but I don't recall whether or not. I think it was like a 12-string one or something. So I was just like, I'm not touching that. I don't even know how to tune it. Cool rails or hot rails? Yeah, these are definitely cool. These have as low output as basically a vintage spec pickup, except you can thrash them with gain and they'll hold it without squealing or anything. Yeah, so in terms of other channels, that's pretty much most of the ones there. I'm actually subscribed to a lot of smaller YouTube channels as well. There's one called Craft Show that I like. They talk about the camera, how to use camera equipment. They're production experts and stuff. So I think I'm going to start doing some of that this year as well. It's sort of like a goal. I want to start like a production company, take what I know to other places, whether it's building their social network or, financially I need to start doing something else. And I don't really want to have to charge companies to do this. I think that sort of sends the wrong message a lot of the time. So people will say that we deserve to be paid and all this kind of stuff, but if your channel's big enough, you can get away without having to be paid all the time. So people with low traffic YouTube channels that want to be paid a lot, they don't want to put in the hard yards either or work anywhere else. I really think like I'd love to do what I do. I love the production stuff. I love playing guitar, but also, I posted on Instagram. I'm now an official lawnmower model. A friend of mine started a lawn mowing business, and he's like, "Hey man, I'm too fat to be on camera. Can I take some photos of you holding these whippersnippers?" So if you want to see that, check out my Instagram. I got the funniest comments I've ever seen. So yeah, it was hilarious. But yeah, I'm going to do some different stuff this year, I think, and I need to free up a little bit of time, and ditching some of the pedal demos is probably a good idea. But that leads me into what I look up on YouTube. I look up a lot of stuff that will help me either physically, mentally, or give me knowledge in areas that might not be as strong. So yeah, that's kind of what I look for online. What's unique about playing a maple fretboard versus rosewood? The way it looks. And that's really about it. Some people will swear that rosewood does something to the sound, and they might not be wrong, but I think it's more about just the vibe of the guitar. Like, this wouldn't look anywhere near as good with in my opinion, subjective opinion, with a rosewood fingerboard. I think this is just, it looks great. Yeah, so I don't know if it really changes much, to be honest. It's just more of a visual thing. It may have some impact on something, but I don't know, man. All right, Stanley. Good night, everybody. It's been fun to hang out. Thanks so much for answering my questions. No problems at all. That's awesome. Do I ever listen to the Doug and Pat show? Lots of Les Pauls and AC30s love in there. Doug and Pat? I don't even know who that is. No. I'll tell you what. I'll type that in so I can find it later. So many things that I don't know of on YouTube, and then when I see it, I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen these guys before. Or the other thing is, like, I watch a channel for a while, and then I forget about them, and I go back 6 months later, and they got more subs than me. So, Doug and Pat. All right, I'll subscribe and I'll check it out. Thanks for the heads up. I just saw a comment that made me laugh, and now I can't see it. Where was it? What's your dead honest opinion on the Fender Modern Player Thin Line Deluxe? Alright, I don't know that guitar in particular, but my honest opinion on a Thin Line Telecaster with the two Fender humbuckers is it's muddy as nobody's business. A few of my friends have had them over the years and one still got them. That neck pickup sounds like this. Instead of this. It just lacks any type of tops. I just find them too muddy a guitar or muddy a pickup. They look fantastic though. Visually and playability wise, they're great guitars. Thanks, Blues Hound. I think I'm almost done too. My throat's starting to get sore. Yeah, Phil, I know those other channels. I think I'm already subscribed to at least one of them. Shane, you look great operating a two-stroke brush cutter. Oh, bush cutter, I should say so. Yeah, that Instagram post is hilarious. Go check it out. I wasn't even ready for the... I think I should have had him take more photos. It's just hilarious. And the comments on it were great. Like, oh, what's the profile? What's the action like and all this? What's my favorite lick? I've got a couple of them. I like, in terms of intro licks for slow blues, you've heard me play this a million times. This is an Albert King thing. Sometimes the simple stuff is good. I really love this Chris Kane thing I've been using a lot lately as well. He goes like... You use that over a minor. He's just got lots of great licks, you know. He's got this other one. Go to it. So those kind of things are fun. I really like that. Just depends, man. It depends on what I'm playing. But another great classic one that I play a lot, or used to play a lot, is the Nowhere Else to Go lick. You know, you're gonna go and like... That one's always fun. I don't think you can beat just locking in with simple stuff. I always like that, you know. Well, I'm not in the right key. I don't know. I think I got a few favorite licks. Just depends on what I'm playing. Thin lines are good with P90s. Absolutely. I think a P90 would really help the tone. I think the regular made in Mexico thin line Telecasters, nearly everyone that I know who's bought one has bought them on their visual because they're like beautiful guitars and they feel great in the hand. And then you realize that like they don't have enough top end. And can you change the pickups in there? Probably, but yeah, that's just my opinion on it. Everyone likes different stuff too. That's why all of it's subjective. Have you ever had a piece of gear, guitar pedal or amp that you just didn't like, but when you paired it with something else, it became gold? It's an interesting question. Yeah, there's a couple of, like, there's rare, really great combinations of stuff. I remember when I first bought my Epiphone Dot after playing a Strat, I didn't like it that much, but when I got my Traynor, it blew me away. I was like, man, this is like the match made in heaven. There's been a few situations like that. What else would there be? It's the reverse has also been true a few times. Like I bought an amp that I thought was amazing, and then I took it out and played it live, and I hated it. So I've had situations like that more than I've had the opposite happen, where I've gone, you know what, I don't like this, but I've tried it, and wow, I'm like totally blown away. I'll have to have a think about it. That's a really good question. That's not a lot I can think of off the top of my head that I kept long after I didn't like it. Actually, I tell you what, the Klon was a great example of that. I blew $385 on it, whatever it was when it came out, and I hated it. I plugged it in at home. I was like, this sounds terrible. Like, plugged it next to my Tube Screamer. I'm like, the Tube Screamer sounds amazing. And Rick's like, wait till you play it live. Wait till you play it live. I was like, yeah. It sounds like crap on its own. You play it live and it's fantastic. Like, the Klon's not a pedal you buy to play at home. That's one of those things. So they sound nasty on their own. They sound great in a band mix. So I would say the Klon would also be another example of that. I would try before buying. Absolutely, always try to do that. Whether it's especially an amp thing. Sometimes if it's a practice amp for home, it doesn't really matter. But if you want to gig with something, always play it, or at least have played the equivalent one somewhere. And then if you're gonna order it online, go do that. But I've never ordered a guitar online. I won't do it. I'm too reluctant, and it's not going to be right. I'm very, very picky with how things need to play and what I like in a guitar. And if I can't feel it in my hand and know that the frets are going to be the right height and there's no problems with, whatever, I'm too OCD like that. Do I have any furniture made from guitars? No. I've got a guitar made from furniture. Ever heard of Dan Auerbach? Absolutely. I got an album of his he produced with Dr. John, and it's a great album. Would a Fender Strat and a PRS Silver Sky have interchangeable parts? That's a really good question. I think, you know what, I'm not too sure. I think the pickups are probably roughly the same size. They might have just made them a little bit different, so you're going to have to buy PRS third-party pickups if you want to change them. But I don't know. That's a really great question. I think just visually they look very, very similar, but that would be a really interesting topic to cover. Need to listen to a band called Longshot. Alright, cool. Do I prefer humbuckers or single coils? I would say almost now I like humbuckers more. And the reason is I find them less distracting to play. But that said, I'm playing a Telecaster with hum-free pickups. So I'm going to count them as humbuckers. And I feel like I get a more usability out of hum-free pickups where I play most of the time. I love Strat tones. I love the lipstick pickups. Are actually one of my favorites. And by the way, coming up, I had so many people ask me, like, can I do a video between the Mexican Strat and the the Dan Electro 84, which is done. It's in editing. And I'll upload that after this. So it'll be up in probably a week or so. Rain, how do you say that name? I just call you Rain. Says, I once got drunk and ordered a Mexican Strat secondhand on eBay, forgot about it, and imagine my surprise a few weeks later. Awesome guitar too. That's awesome. What do I think of Jack White's new album? I haven't heard it. I need to get back on Spotify and check some stuff out. Do you find your muscle memory skills while learning new stuff strengthening or weakening with age? Muscle memory stuff. So, I find it's, like, as you can tell, I get in habits when I'm noodling around that aren't very creative. It's just because that, everyone's got their muscle memory. But I think it all helps, if you're learning something new, it always takes time. I always found, like, if I could hear it in my head, I could work it out quicker. If I can't hum along and try to work it out, I can't play it. Or it takes me a whole lot longer. So when I've learnt some solos from songs, or if I want to learn a particular lick off something I was working on, like I got a lick off an instructional video the other day, which I was playing. I just need to hear it in my head. I think, yeah, so it's, that's a really obscure way of playing it, but those are the notes. I've forgotten how it goes, but yeah, if you can hum it, it generally helps you learn it. If you can't hum along, you need to listen to it more before you start to approach the lick, because it will stay in your memory better that way. I learnt this other one off this Knopfler inspired lesson, and it was in A, I think. It was like I learned that pretty easy because I could hear it in my head easily. Like I could probably have almost worked that out without looking at the video. Just once I heard it enough, I'd probably get it. Nope. Said that, now I can't even play it. Just a great little riff that it's off this little country lesson thing, or Knopfler lesson. So yeah, sing it in your head and play it that way. I think a lot of people make the mistake of just trying to learn a lick by just following small sections of it at a time, but you need to hear it enough to get it in your head and then work out small sections of it. You'll remember it a lot easier. Goodbye, thanks for the amazing live. Keep pushing yourself. Playing is damn good. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I might actually wrap this up pretty shortly. So I appreciate everyone for hanging out. If anyone has any last questions, let me know now. So BD Alternate says, how much does the Mexican Straddle Tele cost down under? I think that's what he's getting at. The deal price in quotations is about $900. That's what I paid for my Mexican Strat without a case, without a gig bag, without anything. So it's just a straight up guitar. They're probably around $950 now. Odds are, because that was a couple of years ago. Can I improvise a song and sing in French? No. Oh. Je t'aime, je t'aime, je t'aime. I learnt like 4, I think that means I love you, doesn't it? Le Baton Blanc. I got nothing else, that's it. That's all you get. What amplifier am I using now? The Lunchbox Kemper. Alright, what do I think of Green Day and The Living End? I used to like those bands. More in high school than I do now. I don't really listen to a whole lot of that stuff. My favourite sort of heavy, or punkish band of all time, Bad Religion. Hands down, man, I love that band. Great lyrics. Greg Graffin, the lead singer, is also a scholar. He's a smart dude, man. I've still got some of their albums. I used to like Pennywise a lot. Even up until a point, I used to also like Offspring as well. But yeah, I think Bad Religion, hands down, was my favourite band for a long time. That's all I was listening to at one point in time was Tool and Bad Religion, like in my last year of high school. I love those bands. Mexican Strats have gone up £100, or is that euros? I can't see from here. In 2 years in England. Wow. Yeah. Do a review of the Katana Air. I will. As soon as this is all... for whatever reason, now Australia's like taking forever to get anything. So I'm waiting on the Marshall Origin Series amps. The Fender version 4s aren't at Sky Music yet, and they're like one of the biggest retailers around. So I don't know why they haven't got them yet, but they're due this month, and odds are I said they're getting the Katana Airs, and they all said yeah. So as soon as they turn up, I'll grab one and give it a go. Brutal. I'll delete that from the stream. Oh, I can't. All right, guys, rock on. Well, have a great night. Thank you, Sonia, for helping with the stream here. I appreciate that. And I'll take this last question here from Ryan. As a lefty, do you recommend going about buying... How do you go about buying guitars? Everyone says go try some out, but that's also crazy impossible. What's your strategy? Look, if you're just going based on sound, listen to people that play your kind of music. That might help you a bit. Try to determine what you like as well. But feel is one of those things that changes over time. The more I've played, the more I like certain things and the less I like certain things. I won't go out and buy a guitar now with vintage frets. I just can't do it. I know they won't last long and I'll have to have them replaced. And that was kind of like the deal breaker for me on one of the guitars I tried recently, which I loved. But I was thinking, oh, I know in a couple of years I'm going to have to spend $400 and get it refretted. So, yeah, I think it's one of those things. It's always best to try it out. Or like what I do, if I'm looking at camera gear and I don't have that luxury, like most people can't go try a new camera. You can pick it up in the shop and have a look at it, but you just try to accumulate as much knowledge as you can about anything before you buy anything. And trust your own instincts for stuff. The worst thing that can happen is you might not like the neck shape, but that will at least tell you, okay, so that wasn't right, but now I can maybe get something with a bigger neck or a smaller neck to suit your hands. So much like buying a new speaker where you can't go test them, generally, you've just got to take a gamble on stuff and try to find what works for you. And that's kind of how I feel about this. I know a lot of people will ridicule me for putting these back in videos coming up, but that's what works for my situation. So I got to sort of trust my instincts for stuff. So so do the same. All right, guys, rock on. Have a great day. Have a great night. Thanks for hanging out. It's been a great stream. Almost 2 hours. Far out. No wonder my throat's getting dry. I should have bought a water bottle in here. Anyway, I'm gonna go play my same 5 licks for a while, and I'll catch you all soon. Thanks again, guys. If I missed any questions, feel free to leave them on the stream once